Economist Andreas Georgiou knew his job would not be easy. Even so, it was only when he discovered his emails were being hacked and leaked that he realized how challenging it would be to protect professional independence in official statistics. Hired in 2010 to reform the disgraced Greek Statistics Authority, ELSTAT, Georgiou discovered the email breach weeks into the job. The police told me that the hacker had been entering multiple times a day into my account from day one of my work at ELSTAT and had accessed and downloaded thousands of my emails, Georgiou told Reuters news agency. All trust was broken. Greece's debt crisis overwhelmed the Eurozone after the country revealed in 2009 that its deficit had been massively underreported. Now Georgiou, who has a PhD in economics from the University of Michigan, brought in to stop such practices, is also trapped in the storm. Last November, he was called before Parliament to answer accusations by former Statistics Authority board members that he had exaggerated Greece's 2009 budget deficit as part of a German-led conspiracy to plunge the country into deeper austerity. Last month, financial crimes prosecutors charged Georgiou with distorting official data. The reason behind such charges has not yet been released, but he may be convicted of breach of faith, a crime that usually applies to those who misuse public funds. If he is, he could face at least 5 years in jail. Georgiou says he did nothing wrong and merely applied European Union (EU) statistical standards, such as ensuring data collectors are free of political influence. That this is happening in the middle of the Eurozone is a very strange experience, he said. I am being prosecuted for following the law. His supporters, including EU partners who are bankrolling the Greek government with hundreds of billions of euros, say the affair reflects continuing political reluctance in Greece to confront many of the country's structural faults. Eurostat, the official statistics authority for the EU, has rushed to Georgiou's defense, issuing public statements in his support. A spokesman for the German finance ministry said he knew of the investigation, but had heard nothing about Germany's alleged part. I don't even know the accusations. Nonsense, he said. The current Greek government has also backed Georgiou, although it is clearly cautious about interfering in the legal process. The outside world doesn't understand, and, to be honest, we have a huge difficulty explaining to our partners what is happening here, said a senior Greek finance ministry official on condition that their name would not be revealed. What we stress is that we stand behind the current numbers in our economic program. They have been confirmed for reliability by Eurostat and we have full confidence in Mr. Georgiou. Government officials say part of the problem with Greece's statistical service was that, until recently, it was controlled by the finance ministry and at the mercy of ministers. In the past, according to the officials, some in the ministry may have wanted to keep GDP low to collect more EU subsidies, while others wanted to boost GDP to keep the deficit ratio within WHO rules. Eurostat regularly used to approve Greece's numbers, but with reservations, meaning it doubted their reliability. In 2004, then Finance Minister George Alagoskoufis told the European Commission, the executive branch of the EU in Brussels, that Greece had underreported its budget deficit for years, including for 2001, the year it joined the Eurozone. 2 years later, Greece surprised its European partners again by announcing that it was revising up its GDP by 25% after including illegal financial activities and corruption. Eurostat objected and approved only a 9% revision, but not before Greece had been laughed at by the international media. Greece managed to get by somehow with reservations on its statistics for some time, said Andreas Georgiou, who also held senior posts at the International Monetary Fund (IMF) from 1989 to 2010. It was an approach and a culture, but it led to a wiping out of the credibility of the statistics of the country. That credibility suffered further with a new finance minister. Socialist George Papakonstantinou announced in late 2009 that the budget deficit would come to 12.7% of GDP instead of a previously estimated 6%. He blamed conservative Yannis Papathanasiou, who had held the post before him. Eurogroup head and Luxembourg Prime Minister Jean-Claude Juncker told reporters in Brussels at the time, "The game is over, we need serious statistics." The revision was followed by another new deficit estimate of 13.6% in April 2010. It was at that point, as part of an international bailout that rescued Greece from financial collapse, that Papakonstantinou created a new, independent statistics authority and brought in Georgiou. In October 2010, Georgiou re-examined the 2009 budget deficit figure with Eurostat and revised it again, this time to 15.4%. Papakonstantinou says it was during his time in office that the agency started functioning without political interference. As for the charges against Georgiou, he said, "The final judge of the reliability of any EU member's data is Eurostat, whose rules national statistical agencies are required to apply. I therefore fail to see how and why this is an issue for the Greek courts." There were challenges at ELSTAT from the start, Georgiou says. One of its board members had been appointed by the finance minister and another by the central bank. Some members regarded Georgiou as a rival. Also on the board was a labor union representative. Those people wanted to get involved more directly in producing numbers. Georgiou insisted that should be solely the work of experts in statistics. "I explained that the technical staff had to do their jobs independently," he said. In the past 2.5 years, according to Georgiou, Greece has produced sets of figures 5 times without any Eurostat reservations for the first time in years. Indeed, Eurostat confirmed the 2009 deficit figure after careful examination. But clashes continued, including with the ELSTAT trade union, whose president Nikos Klouvatos has asked for Georgiou to step down from his post pending his trial. Georgiou wanted to change everything. "And we told him we agreed, but only if he did it slowly," said Klouvatos. In the words of the above-mentioned finance ministry official, Papakonstantinou had wanted an internationally minded person, someone who could talk convincingly with foreigners, to lead ELSTAT. Papakonstantinou, said the official, also ended up surrounding the person of his choice with members controlled by the government. In September 2011, then Finance Minister Evangelos Venizelos dismissed the ELSTAT board, and, in April 2012, a new law created an advisory council instead. Since then, former board members have alleged that Georgiou deliberately exaggerated the 2009 budget deficit, leading Greece's Eurozone partners to demand tougher austerity measures in return for bailing out the country. Zoe Georgiou, an applied econometrics professor at the University of Thessaloniki, is one of those former members. She insists her concerns are technical. According to Georgiou, the drastic austerity measures imposed on Greece are still based on incorrect figures. Her calculations show that Greece's GDP is underestimated by 30%. She has estimated that the country's deficit for 2012 is not over 4% of GDP. Georgiou rejects those figures and the allegation that he overstated the deficit. The IMF and the EU put Greece's deficit for 2012 at 6.6% of GDP. Others soon joined the battle. One newspaper called Georgiou the Trojan horse of the international lenders. But former Prime Minister George Papandreou strongly criticized the prosecutors, saying the attack on the statistics boss was an assault on his own days in office, and that earlier statistics officials had distorted the figures for years. The Union of Greek Prosecutors hit back, calling Papandreou's statement an unacceptable intervention in legal proceedings. It could take years for the case to come to court. Given that investigators have not yet finished their work, it remains possible that the charges against Georgiou will be dropped. Georgiou says the country needs serious statistics. Serving the national interest is to produce official statistics according to international statistical standards, correct methodology, and EU law. This is how we best serve our country, he said. I came here because I loved Greece, and I still love it, despite everything.